about living in California happened today. Pasha and I went cherry picking out in Brentwood, California. And California is interesting to me because they have found ways to turn manual labor into recreation. Um, in Arkansas or in Texas, if somebody says, "Hey, y'all, let's go pick cherries," I'm not sure that would go over very well. But here, big time, good times. And it was fun picking our own cherries. We wound up with, I think, 3, maybe 4 pounds of a bag of cherries. And it's cool because you get to eat cherries as you pick. So it was different. It was fun. But today it's 2 o'clock on the West Coast, which means it is time for another episode of Public Exposure. All right, so this is where I left you guys yesterday. Let's go to the iPad. I left you guys at the life vision exercise. We were looking at how to take our life vision, what we plan on doing, what we want to create for our lives someday, backing that up to a 3 to 5 year plan that aligns with those someday goals. And then what are the 1 year goals that we would need to accomplish that align with the 3 to 5 year goals and align with the someday goals that are going to get us where we want to go someday. And we called that the life vision exercise. And the big takeaway from yesterday was that those someday goals, those big 5 someday goals, align with the 3 to 5 year goals and the 1 year goals. So when I go to the 3 to 5 year goals, I'm not creating all new random goals for myself. I'm selecting and distinguishing those goals that are going to move me toward achieving that someday goal. And the same idea with the 1 year goal. I want to do things that align with and get me closer to the 3 to 5 year goal. Now, what do we do now that we have our 3 to 5 year, or I'm sorry, our 1 year goals? How do we actually put those into a 1 year plan? And that's what we're going to be talking about today as we look at what is called an annual strategy planner. I often call this my GPS, which is goals, priorities, and strategies. Nonetheless, this is whatever you call it, this is what it looks like. And this is what we're going to work through today. And again, we're using my personal business goals here to build these things out. And I'm going to go ahead and share those again with you today. I do want to go back just for a second. I realized yesterday after we finished that I left out a critical part of for me, what was happening on my goals. And that was happening, it was the theme that was coming up for these goals in terms of the year, the timeline, and the someday. So what I realized was that my ultimate goal here is to lift lift everybody up, be a resource and a hub for other people. That's that someday goal where I'm in a position where I can lift all. My 3 to 5 year theme would be to build them. And that makes more sense if you watched yesterday and how I look at, if you want to build personal influence, one of the best ways to do that is to help other people build their influence. Build other people, that will build you. And so my 3 to 5 year theme was really building them, which means my 1 year goal was build me. Build my stuff in this realm. I'll spend for the next year, I'll spend the next 3 to 5 years building them, building other people so that someday I'm able to raise and lift all beyond just me and the people that I'm working with, but we're putting things in the world that lift the world's consciousness, lift the world's awareness, make the world a better place than we left it. That all gets possible when I focus on taking care of myself, focus on taking care of other people, and together we can do that. So let's look at these. Today we're going to live here in these 1 year goals. And just to remind you, number 1 was to build my business, specifically around the leadership development series that I'm doing now and building out and starting to promote. The leadership development series, we'll talk more in depth about what that is. The second thing was to build the brand of Chad. I mentioned to you yesterday that I built a personal brand in the real estate marketing space, so helping agents market and create their businesses. I had done that, but I'm doing it now in the life coach space, and so we're going to look at that. Number three was laying the foundation financially for building the conference center and the retreat center that I'm wanting to create in my Sunday goals. Now I need to be laying the foundation for what that's going to look like, thinking about location, thinking about what I need to do financially with Posh and I's investments. How can we be positioning that so that we can leverage those to create that conference center down the road? The fourth thing was podcast with other people, podcast with guests. I mentioned yesterday that my podcast is mostly, with very few exceptions, just a solo thing. Scripted, it's very NPR style. I'm going to start doing more podcasts where I'm inviting other voices in to feature them. And that's part of what I need to do. And then the other thing is to donate $5,000. Posh and I have a nonprofit called the PS Foundation for the Arts. And my 1 year goal is that I'm donating $5,000 to that at the end of 1 year. So how do we take all of these big goals that we've got, these big 5 goals that we've got, and actually put them into a plan of action? That's what we're going to be talking about today. And the tool we're going to use, again, is called the GPS, Goals, Priorities, and Strategies. So when I think about my big goal, so when I would work with real estate agents, this was a lot easier to do because real estate's very formulaic. I've tried to translate that as much as possible into the work that I'm doing now. So if you're starting to see some bleed over, that's definitely where it comes from. So when I think about my big annual goal, if I were to sum it all up, it's easiest when doing these plans to put that in terms of a number, a financial income goal, so that I can achieve other things. So if you look back at the life vision exercise, laying the foundation financially, that's a financial goal. Donating $5,000 is a financial goal. So there are some financial outcomes that need to happen, that need to be considered, but also just building the business. There's going to be revenue associated with that. Me going out and talking, we'll talk about how that works, and then podcasting guests, we'll talk about how that works. So let's go back over here. Let's look at the big goal, and the big goal for me is going to be for year 1 here is 400,000 annual revenue. Okay, so my big goal here is 400,000 annual revenue. That's the outcome of all of the other goals. If I took all the other goals and mushed them together, the outcome of doing all that stuff would come out to my big annual income goal of $400,000 in annual revenue. So now I need to think about my 3 priorities for making that happen. So what might that be? Well, the first one, it goes back to that building the business stuff. So I've got to really focus on building the business. And specifically for me this year, that's going to be the leadership development stuff. It's a leadership development series for life coaches that I'm working on. So that's going to be the big thing for me this year. And all of my income is going to be derived from everything in this column. So the entire 400,000 is going to come from this column. You may be somebody that has a side hustle where you're thinking, okay, my big annual goal is $400,000, $100,000, $1 million, whatever it might be. And you might have your primary business here in 1, your side hustle goes in 2. So you may have, if your number was 400,000, you may have 100,000 coming from your primary business, another 100,000 from your 9-to-5 job, and another 100,000 or 200,000 from your side hustle. So mine just happens to be that all the revenue will come from one place. That may not be the case for you when you do this for yourself, but for me it is. Now, my second priority, if you go back and look at my life vision exercise, there was a lot about building my brand. So part of making that happen is going to be to build my brand on other people's platforms. And the thinking behind that is other people are in this space already, and they have built an audience already in this space. So what I need to do is align myself with those people so that I can basically borrow their audience. So a podcast interview, doing affiliate type work, deals, There are other ways that I can get in front of their audience speaking. So right now I'm doing ERG groups. I'm talking to employee resource groups in corporations. They've already got an audience of people that are going to be into my stuff. I just have to go get in front of them. So right now, my focus for priority 2 is building my platform, or building me. When I say me, my personal brand on other people's platforms, OPP, building me on other people's platforms. My third priority is going to be to build my platform. And just as a reminder, I'm getting these priorities by evaluating my life vision exercise, my 1-year plan. And if you look at this, donating $5,000 is going to get taken care of with the revenue that comes in from the business. Podcasting with guests, you're going to see how that shows up with building my platform. Laying the foundation financially, that's all part of the revenue stuff. Branding myself, we just talked about that. And building the business, we've talked about that. So those 5 goals are represented in my priorities for the next year. So once that's done, then I'm thinking about what are the strategies that I need to put in place to drive those priorities that will ultimately lead to my final big annual goal. All right. So I mentioned to you in column 1, build the business using the leadership development program series that I've created. That's really important. But before I can do that, I've got to promote and get leads of life coaches. So my number 1 priority 1-1, is leads. And these are specifically life coach leads. So I'm looking for life coaches. So when I get up in the morning, or when I get in front of my computer to do my monthly planning, and I'll do a monthly planning session with you guys sometime down the road in one of these series. My monthly planning is derived by looking at these strategies. Okay? That's how I know what I need to do that month, because these strategies are driving the priorities, which are driving the goal. The first, number 1 thing I've got to have is leads. I've got to have people in the pipeline. So I'm going to sit down and think about all the ways that I can go generate leads, right? Because that's got to happen. Now, once those leads come in, those leads, I need them to go to my leadership development workshop. So one of the things that I'm doing and building is a leadership development workshop. It's actually, you can go register for it now. And in that leadership development workshop, I'm doing that every Thursday. And so every Thursday I'm teaching. Now I'm trying a couple of different strategies just with that. So there's one part of that where that leadership development workshop is $20.14. To attend. It's 2 hours of coaching. It's done live on Thursdays, and people pay $20.14 for it. So that's one way that I'm trying it. So I'm trying a couple of different things with this to see what works. $20.14. Why that? Because in 2014, Pasha and I started our foundation. We started our camp that year. And so 2014 just made sense to me because it's a donation to our nonprofit. So people are going to pay $20.14 for those 2 hours of coaching. That $20.14 is a donation to our nonprofit. So that's the one I'm running now. That, however, the leadership development workshop, that will change as I test a free version. So there's going to be just register for free and show up. And I'm going to try both of those. So that's the strategy around the leadership development workshop. Once they're in the leadership development workshop, they're going to be offered enrollment into the leadership development program. All right. So the leadership development program is going to be an annual program, a year-long program that people enroll in, where they get a chance to, it's going to be cohort style. So people get to be in a group of other people that are working on the same stuff. There's a 12-week intensive where you're getting a video lesson every week. You're getting an exercise to do every week, and you're getting a group coaching experience with me and the people in your cohort every single week for 12 weeks. It's a 12-week intensive. And then they're also going to get another 12 weeks with an encounter group that they're going to need to use within that year program. And they're also going to get monthly group coaching with me throughout the year on different topics around the ideas of life coaching or just creating a better life for yourself. You don't have to be a life coach to be in it. If you're just somebody that's into personal development, that's doing some work on yourself, those folks would be invited. So that's all going to be in that life leadership development program. Not everybody's going to want to do that. So I've got a couple of other ways to engage them, and those are my other strategies. So there's going to be a Leadership Development Academy. That's the event in October 6th to 8th in Dallas. That's going to be an opportunity for people to be in the same room with other people, go to a live event, and it's a 3-day intensive just exercising the things that I've been talking about. So that's going to happen in October. The people that don't want to do the full program will get the opportunity to go to the academy. The other opportunity will be for folks to do the leadership development mindset methods. So I don't want to do the 12-week intensive. I don't want to do the encounter group. I'm not looking for a certification. I just want to show up to those monthly group coaching things where you're teaching something new every month. That's where these people will go. And so that will be a priority for me. And so these are the priorities, the strategies that I've got put in place to drive this annual revenue goal. So this is how I'm thinking about it all the time. So that's where it begins. That's how I do this. The second thing is to brand me on other people's platforms. The first strategy that I'm going to put in place to do that are these employer. Maybe this would be easier if I used a different color for these different columns. Let's do green. Okay. So I'm doing, it's not all that different, is it? So I'm, like I mentioned earlier, I'm doing these employee resource groups. So I'm going to, big corporations, almost all of them have a group of employees that are doing monthly meetings, and it's their LGBT group. Okay. So gay people that work for Apple, they may have a monthly meeting. They'll bring in a guest speaker. I'm talking to people that lead those groups to bring me in to be that guest speaker. That gets me in front of those people. Rotary groups. That might be another one. So employee resource group, corporate gigs. Now, if as a marketing person, I look at the ERG thing and I go, it doesn't completely align with the leads that you need, because everybody that goes to one of these talks, I offer them the bonuses that go with my book. So I go in with as I'm an author of this book. I want to talk to your folks about it. They usually say yes. And then when I get in there, I say, I teach. And then I say, if you want additional resources to keep continuing the conversation, here are some book bonuses. Go to chadpeevy.com/book and get the free book bonuses. I get their email address and then I market to them that way. So they get included in this lead group. Now you may be thinking, those people have corporate jobs. They're not life coaches. Well, again, it's personal development work. So they may not want the full program, but they may want to come to the live event. They may want to do the monthly thing, because it's not just coaches that are doing personal development work. Everybody and in every industry is doing personal development work. So it makes sense for that I do that. It also makes sense that I do that because it builds my own brand and credibility. So when I can say I've spoken for X, Y, and Z companies, it builds my brand, which is part of the priority. I've got to build my brand and my credibility. And the way I do that is speaking at these big companies. I can then use those logos on my LinkedIn profile or my Facebook profile and show folks, yes, this is what I do for a living. I'm not just somebody. I'm actually out here doing this, and I've spoken for these companies, including Okay, so that's why I do that. The other priority that I have under building me on other people's platforms is I'm going to podcast as a guest. And this is going to be where I run my affiliate program. I can't even spell today. So I'm going to be offering myself up to be a guest on other people's podcasts. They've already got listeners who are interested in what they're doing. So at the end of those episodes, there's going to be an offer made. If you'd like to know more about working with Chad or get the bonuses for his book that he's been talking about here, go to this place, get the book bonuses, same sort of deal. Or I can say, go to the Leadership Development Workshop and give them a link specifically to go there. Either way, I'm going to be paying out a percentage of whatever those people, if they come to me through a podcast, I'll be able to track that and know that that podcast produced this lead, and that lead will be tracked in my system. Any revenue that's generated from that person, money that comes from them will go back to the person that referred them. That's how an affiliate relationship works. So you're going to bring me onto your podcast. I'll talk about we'll talk. I'll make an offer at the end about how you can get something for free. You get into my email system. You buy something from me. You pay me money. I pay a percentage out to the person that introduced you to me. So that's how that would work. And that's what I'll be running on the podcast as a guest strategy. The other thing, strategy 2.3 here, is going to be to submit articles. I'm doing this on LinkedIn weekly, and I'm also going to be doing it there are several publications that take freelance work. And so I'll be doing that. I've not done that just because of time constraints so far, but this is how you get things like as featured on NBC, as featured on Fox News, as featured on ABC. You get those logos. People have those on their websites, which builds their credibility because they're submitting blog posts or they're doing local news stories. ABC and Topeka, Kansas is the same as ABC, right? So even though you're in a smaller market being featured, I can then go back and say, yes, I was actually on ABC. Who cares if it was San Francisco or LA or Dallas or Topeka? It doesn't matter. So part of the strategy will be to submit publications to outlets to be featured on their platforms. The next strategy, 2.4, will be LinkedIn articles. I'm playing with this. This is going to be an organic thing. I created one yesterday that I submitted on LinkedIn. It's always frustrating for me to create content and it lands like, in silence. It's like a silent thud. I spend all this time creating this article and designing it and all of this, and then you put it out there and it's just like silence, crickets in response. Doing organic is really tough, but I'm committed to doing that because I would like after a year to be able to have this library of content because it will live there, right? And so in a year, I'll be in a different spot. So the people that meet me in a year will have an entire library of stuff that I've created for the last 12 months that they can then consume now. So I've got to put myself in the mindset of, okay, if somebody meets me a year from now, if somebody meets me 2 years from now, what am I doing now that builds my credibility for that person that I won't meet for another 24 months? I will admit on my journey, that is tough. That's hard. That stuff is hardest for me to get motivated around creating, but it's necessary. But so we'll keep going. The strategy number 5 for building my brand on other people's platforms will be paid ads. So I am doing Facebook ads right now, and I'll be doing YouTube ads. I haven't started the YouTube ads yet. I have studied it and I have all the tools to make it happen, but I haven't started that yet. Facebook ads, those have been running. I will tell you that the mindset assessment that I created 2 years ago, I'm running as an ad, and that does extremely well for generating leads for me. So maybe 30 people a day, and I'm spending very, very little money. I think I'm maybe spending $10 a day. I'm getting down to basically 10 cents per person coming in, per email that I'm collecting, which is really, really low. Now, the caveat to that is I don't yet know the quality of that lead. I've tried to mitigate that with the targeting. So making sure I'm really specific with who I'm targeting with that. So when I had it just personal development, that's when like 30 people a day would come into my funnels. But now I've got it niched down to a very specific group of life coaches who I think would be interested in a certification program like I'll be offering. And that number has gone down significantly. But the cost per is still very low. I'm going to watch that for probably another week. And when I have more data around what those targeted audiences are generating for me, I'm gonna dial the amount of money up to get in front of more eyeballs to get email addresses from those folks. So ads is another way that I look at to build my brand on somebody else's platform. Now, all of these, I don't know if you've noticed, but all of these efforts are done in a way to get people on my platform. So I'm going out and building myself on the coattails of other people, all in an effort to get them into my world, because I want to own that email address. I want to own that relationship, which is, oh, that's a sign I'm talking too much and not working enough. Building my platform. So I'm not sure if you've noticed, but there are a whole lot of platforms that you can be on. I have tried to be on all of them. I tried that for a couple of months and it just became exhausting. So I'm dialing that back. One of the things that I want to be focusing on is podcast as solo. And I do mine more like audio essay, NPR style stories. If I could get one a month out, I would be happy. It has been a couple of months since I've gotten one out, so I'm falling behind the tragedy of a one-man show. But if I could get one podcast episode out a month in the style that I do it, that's another one of those things where it's like, all right, in 12 months and 24 months, you've got a great library of stuff for the people that meet you then to dig into and digest and get to know you better and understand your work better and commit to working with you. So that's one of those things. That's the podcast. I also want to do podcasts with guests. And again, I would like to do one time a month. That's the goal. My third priority is the email newsletter. I send out when people come into my world and they, for example, get those book bonuses. So if they hear about me on somebody else's podcast, or they hear me at their work ERG meeting and they subscribe to my stuff, they're going to get a series of email from me. They're going to get about 6 emails from me that indoctrinate them. It's called an indoctrination series, but it indoctrinates them into my world. If you've not seen how mine works, if you go to chadpeevy.com/book, you can get into it and see how this works. The very first email that they get from me is a little different than what I've seen other folks do. And I do it this way because I'm gay. And the reason that I do it this way is I come out in the first email. I make it really clear up front that I'm married to a man with brown skin. His name is Pasha, he's Persian. And it's like 2 sentences, but I make it really clear that I am gay. And if you don't like that, unsubscribe here. I just don't want that in my world if you've got a problem with that. And then I go through maybe 4 or 5 other things where I make it really clear what my values are to make sure that you're someone that aligns with my values. Not every teacher is meant for every student, right? There has to be an alignment there. And I can't help that I'm gay. Some people have a real problem with that, and I don't want you taking up space in my database. I don't want you wasting your time. So if that's a problem, just unsubscribe and go away, and that's cool. I don't like the idea of banning or burning books. So if that's you, we're not a match, go away. And I make it really clear. I think women should have control of their own lives and make decisions for themselves. And if you're somebody that doesn't think that way, we're not gonna be in alignment. And so I go through a few different things. I'm not trying to die on every hill or fight every battle, but I do make it pretty clear where I am in my values, just to make sure that we're aligned. So that's what happens. Then they get maybe 5 more emails that tell a little bit about me, a little bit about my story. A lot of it has come from my book. So if you've read my book, some of that's going to show up in that email series just to let people know who their teacher is, like who they're signing up for. So that goes into that email series. And then they get an email from me every Sunday. Every Sunday at 2:00, an email shows up. The way that I've created that, those are evergreen emails. And those evergreen emails I did it that way because if you meet me today and come into my series today, you're going to get out. There's a whole lot of emails that are in there already that you'll get every single week. So that's how that works. And I wanted it to work that way because I want people to, I want to have a long list of things that people have access to, right? I don't want them waiting for me every single week to put it out. Even though I am writing one every week, you may be getting one that I created a year ago, okay? Then there are emails that I might send out that are relevant to the time. So yesterday I sent one out about making sense of the senseless and the Uvalde shooting. So that's more of a topical, timely thing. And there's no rhyme or reason to how I send those. It's just when it happens and I have thoughts on it, then I'll send it out. So that's how I've been doing with the email newsletter. But because I own the email, I can change that anytime. I can do something different with that anytime because I own the email address, right? And if people don't like it, they can always unsubscribe. But as long as I'm providing value, why would you unsubscribe? So that will change, but right now that's what that looks like. Also, on building my own platform, my fourth strategy here is going to be a book. My next book. It's called the Method for Transformational Awareness. It's the method that I've created. I think I've shown that on here before, but that's it. It's mostly done. That's going to be specifically for life coaches and people that want to help other people step into their leadership and have impact and influence, and the method for doing that. It's not by accident. You don't have to be super charismatic or motivational. There's a step-by-step process for doing it and helping people have breakthroughs. I've broken that process down. I'm writing about that, and that's what will be in that next book. So that's a priority. That's a strategy that I'm working through over the next year. And then the fifth thing is what I'm doing right now, this daily live, which is a pain in the ass. I'm on LinkedIn. Sorry, guys. Is my once a day live. It's a lot of work. And honestly, I've not been great about hitting it, but it's important for me to be talking about it. Not just to put myself out there, but this also helps me. Just helping me get recentered and refocused and articulating what it is that I'm doing here. These daily lives help me do that. It helps me practice my speaking skills. It helps me get this curriculum under my tongue. You know, one of the things that I've told other people that have asked about my speaking with these corporate gigs, you know, it's not the same. When I was in real estate, I could stand up in the real estate industry. I could stand up in front of any group, anywhere, any time of day and just go. And the reason it could just go is because it was so under my tongue. There was no question about what I was going to say. I knew those people in and out. I knew how to resonate with them. I knew how to make things happen with them. I can do that in the life coaching space. It just takes me a little bit more time. And it's going to take a little bit more time to get the vocabulary, get the language of the industry under my tongue. And so doing things like this doesn't just build my platform, but it helps give me practice to get the language of life coach under my tongue. And so that's why I do this. And so that is, my friends, how I think about creating an annual plan. My annual plan lives in these strategies. These are the things that I'm working on. Not all right now. Like I mentioned to you guys, YouTube ads, I'm not doing that yet, but it's on the radar. The book isn't done. I'm working on it. It's time blocked, but it's not happening right now, but it will happen this year. ERGs, that's going right now, right? So there are leads right now is the big thing, right? Leads. It's all going to be about leads. So I'm hanging up on this call to just dive into lead generation. How am I going to do lead generating? How am I going to do that with Facebook ads? So that's how I structure my days. So I hope this is helpful. I hope this is interesting to you. If you are interested, by the way, in the leadership development program, I will make sure I include a link on here for how you can get registered to do that. I'd love to see you there. Or you can wait a couple of weeks until it's free and save $20 and get the same material. But anyway, nonetheless, I hope this is helpful. I hope you're doing well. Make sure you comment and let me know what you're working on. I love to hear the feedback. It's really helpful for me. I love hearing from you. So thanks so much for that. Until next time, I will see you later.